This is Andi Purewal for Boxing Social in association with Betfred, and I'm joined by Dave Coldwell once again over Zoom. Dave, congratulations. It's been a great and successful start to this year for yourself. Started off last week. We saw Lee Woods picking up that British title, Hopey Price continuing in the pro ranks in a very emphatic fashion, and now Jordan Gill this past weekend continuing this successive winning streak for yourself and the team. Just reflecting on Jordan's victory, a very confident and composed performance against a relentless Mexican challenger in Cesar Juarez. Just your thoughts on his win?
I'm over the moon for Jordan. Yeah, what a way to excise some demons from the Tinoco fight. He showed, what I've been saying all along. You can take positives from a loss, no matter how crushed you feel at the time, and everybody's writing you off. And it's taken 2 years literally to come full circle and to get that opportunity against a better fighter than Tinoco, a fighter that's proven to being able to perform at world level, world title challenger. The guys that beat him are world class. And whoa, see what happened there? The guys that beat him are world class, and he gives them a fight. Even we saw it with Angelo Leo, gave him a really tough fight. Nanito Donaire a few years back, fight of the year. And even Carlos Castro gave him a good fight until he got stopped. But Jordan boxed. He boxed so well. He learned the lessons from Tinoco, knew when to shut him down, showed improvements from his inside game. And he managed the ring really well. His ring generalship was fantastic. And stayed focused, and the discipline that he showed throughout this whole pandemic, it paid off on Saturday night, and I'm over the moon for him. So yeah, I'm happy. I'm really happy.
Just one thing I want to pick up on there, Dave, that you mentioned. I actually just spoke to Jordan about half an hour ago, and you mentioned kind of it was what a way for him to kind of exercise those demons from the Tinoco fight. Going into it, did you feel that there was any kind of thoughts in the back of Jordan's head about the Tinoco fight, and he wanted to try to show people that he was able to right those wrongs to some degree?
The way that I am is that I don't hide from his losses, and I don't dress things up. Yes, listen, we knew that he wasn't 100% right going into the Tinoco fight. I was fuming with him when he told me after what had been going on. But ultimately, he lost the fight because he made the wrong choices. And because he made the wrong choices, it highlighted what he'd still not learned yet as a fighter. So we corrected those things. We improved on the things that he was lacking in. And you saw a glimpse of that in Bloy. And then he's gone to another level, and we've been watching it consistently in sparring. And I said to him beforehand, because you are now doing this consistently, don't worry about things. You will do it on fight night. It'll just, when you say, we talk about people reverting back to type, when it's drilled that much, you're reverting back to what you're just doing it all the time. So you'll kind of go back to that. And that's what he did. And I'm happy with that. He even when he was getting fatigued and he was tired, he was still doing what he's been drilled in the gym to do. So he did fantastic. So it wasn't about proving everybody else wrong. It was about proving himself right. And that's what I'm trying to get into him. Make sure, don't try too hard. Just focus on what you've been doing. Just do what you've been doing. And that's it. That's all I said. All I need to do is to be Jordan Gill. That's it. And, that's what he did.
We've all seen and we all know just how good a technical boxer Jordan is and how brilliantly he's able to move around the ring. How key was it that he stuck to the game plan, especially when you consider the Lara Warrington fight the week before, and of course on the same night on Saturday, Robbie Davis Jr. losing to Valenzuela, who's a fellow Mexican who at times Robbie he stood and traded far too much.
Yeah. You have to pick your spots when you're fighting guys like that. You have to pick your spots because you can't keep moving all the time because they're relentless and they're going to catch up with you and there's going to be times on your chest. What do you do at that moment in time? How do you manage that? if you're forced to exchange with them and you're taking every shot, it can catch up on you. But if you know how to manage those moments, then you can carry on, get back to what you were doing, and you can win the fight. That's what Jordan did. It was very, very disciplined. But what I will say about Jordan and Hope is they do everything that I ask of them. You know, we drill. It might not be the most exciting coaching that they can get. You know, I don't do the million punch combinations and things like that. What I try and do is what's very effective in the fight and what they're going to do in the fight. And they both do everything I ask of them. They both understand the thought process behind it, and they both feel that they're improving with what we're doing. So then what you're seeing is when they fight is they're doing what we work on. And that's very, very key, you know. And Lerone now is in the camp, and Lerone's getting that same, you know, he's getting the same sort of mentality as well. Obviously he's new, so it takes him a little bit. It'll take him a little bit longer. But it's a pleasure to train and to coach people that understand what you're trying to do, feel what you're trying to do, believe in it, and then go out and do it on fight night. And when you see it happen on fight night, how everything you've been working, that is a buzz. That is just spot on. You know, it's literally, you know, there's been some great nights for me where I just look and I just think, after I think you've just done everything that we've worked on in camp. You know, Jamie McDonald when he boxed Kameda the second time. Gav McDonald when he boxed Gamal Yafai, just exact carbon copies of what I was seeing day in, day out in that gym. You know, Bellew against David Hay for the rematch, especially so. The first 6 rounds of the first fight, but the rematch went exactly as it planned, as we've worked on. Everything worked out. Jordan against Ryan Doyle, Bellotti, and then now against Juarez. Exactly what I see each time consistently. Then they go and do it on fight night. I love that. That's what gives me a great buzz, and you know, I really enjoy about the coaching side of things.
Throughout the pandemic in particular, Dave, you know, Eddie's mentioned he wants to see fighters step up maybe a bit quicker than what they would have done without this past year or so. What is the plan for Jordan now? And is it kind of looking at the Kelly-Avanesyan fight, is that kind of a warning of a fighter stepping up too soon to a level too far above his ability? Or is that maybe looking and disrespecting Josh of his own abilities? You know, what is the path for Jordan?
Before Kelly-Avanesyan, everyone was talking about it as a 50-50 fight. Some people thought Avanesyan's strength, aggression, punching power, relentlessness, and experience would win the day. But many, many, many others thought that Kelly was good enough to outbox him. I don't know many people that thought that Kelly would stop him, you know, but many thought that maybe a late stoppage or Kelly on points because of his feet, because of his speed, because of his sharpshooting. But it turned out Avanesyan, the experienced man, won. So now you can't just then all of a sudden say, "Oh, it was a wrong fight. It was rushed. It was this. It was that." Listen. If you believe that your man's good enough going into the fight, then you know then you just got beat by the better man. But he'd not experienced things that he needed to get him through that fight. So again, Jordan against Tinoco had not experienced things until he experienced them on that night. When Jordan fought Juarez, if he hadn't have fought Tinoco and gone through what he went through against Tinoco, and then made those adjustments because he found out that he wasn't quite ready, and he made the mistakes that cost him the fight. If he hadn't have learned from those mistakes, when he's boxed Juarez, comes forward more relentless Tinoco, fought at a higher level than Tinoco, 19 knockouts out of 25 fights. That had happened against Juarez. But because he'd learned from it, because he'd experienced that, he'd got the experience. He could use that experience to navigate it through the fight. I think, okay, right. When Josh Kelly fought Avanesyan, he's not experienced anything like that. He had a difficult night against Ray Robinson, but it was a different style of fight, weren't it? You know, it wasn't relentless pressure. It wasn't somebody constantly on top of you, you know, slinging body shots and head shots and you know, being involved in such a physical as well as mentally hard fight. So he not experienced that. What Avanesyan was going to give him, and when it comes to it, that's a shock to the system, and that's it. You're either you know, some fighters can get through it and navigate the way through it, and then they've got that experience and they managed to get a win, and it'll be a hard fought win, but they got through it. Great stuff. But sometimes you don't get through it, and when you're fighting world class fighters, when you're fighting, you know, fighters that have done it countless times at the top end, if you're not quite ready for it yet, if you're lacking that experience and lacking that know-how, they make you pay for it, and that's what Avanesyan did.
In Jordan's case, Dave, what will be next? I spoke to him again, and he mentioned the Isaac Lowe fight, and he said, you know, he sees the possible bout taking place on a Fury AJ card, because Isaac always fights on Tyson's card. Do you think that's a fight that could happen?
Why not? We saw after Jordan got beat, Isaac was taking piss out of Jordan basically, and he didn't believe that there was an issue with Jordan not being well. Then we saw on Isaac's Instagram not long ago, a couple of months back, saying that he'd like to fight Jordan Gill. Jordan Gill would like to fight Isaac Lowe, and Isaac Lowe always fights on Tyson Fury's undercard, so that's what he does. You know, he's been boxing in America on Tyson's undercards for the last few, you know, couple of years or whatever it is. So I presume he'll probably be on that undercard, and Jordan will happily fight Isaac Lowe on that bill. Eddie fancies the fight. Eddie's mentioned it. I think with Coogan yesterday, I think Eddie mentioned that he wants to make that fight for that undercard. So happy days, let's get it on. It's a good fight. You know, Isaac's got rankings. So for Jordan, it makes sense. Isaac's got rankings. Jordan is now going to be ranked in the WBA, picking up that WBA international. If you're saying that Isaac Lowe's, you know, fringe world level, I said I wanted Jordan to go into fringe world level class, which he did so in with Juarez. And then that'll be a continuous against Isaac Lowe. Isaac Lowe's another, you know, same age as Jordan, young kid, 26 years old. He's unbeaten. Why not? It's a great fight, and they're both English, they're both British. Excuse me.
Moving forward, just again, Dave, just away from that card, just want to get your thoughts as kind of more in depth on the Kelly-Avanesyan fight. Just your thoughts on the bout up until the point of the stoppage. What did you? I
thought it was brilliant. I loved it. I really enjoyed watching it. I thought it was mad. I didn't expect Kelly to kind of fight in that sort of manner, but I thought it was brilliant. And it's just one of those fights. Both fighters were very, very good. It was very, very good to watch. One just implemented his will and his style on the other, and that's how he won. And the heavy hands of Avanesyan and the experience of Avanesyan, especially in them sort of tough, grueling fights, that's what won the fight. But Josh Kelly has to, you know, we tend to, when a flashed young boxer gets beat, there's a lot of like people celebrating the moment, really. But what I'd like to do is I'd like to say well done to Josh Kelly for when in an age where kids like to have 10, 15 fights against nobody's trying to win, just trying to survive against them, and then they step up to English level, and then they step up and step up and step up. Josh Kelly, you know, in his previous fight, he got a lot of criticism for the Ray Robinson fight, but Ray Robinson's a good fighter, you know, and he stepped up to that level. But then to go straight in and go against Avanesyan in your 12th fight is a bold step, and fair play to the kid for doing it. And he gave it what he's got, and he came up short. But if he learns from it and if he takes it in the right manner, it can make him a very, very good fighter, because he's got all the talent in the world. Just need that experience and what to do in the tough spots, and that can come. We saw something similar with David A against Carl Thompson. We've seen it a few times with younger fighters when sometimes when somebody's loaded with that much talent, we kind of want to push them, because as fans you're like, oh, when's he gonna have a test? When's he gonna do this? When's he gonna do that? And then when they do, and then it goes wrong, then I was like, oh, you shouldn't have done this, you shouldn't have done that. Hindsight's unbelievable. It's a brilliant tool to have if you want to, come across as though you know what you're talking about and you're the right voice. But it's a lot more difficult when you haven't got hindsight. And everything that we do, as a coach, as whatever, a promoter, as a manager, everything that we do when we have an idea, whether it's as a coach, oh, I'd like to fight him. When it's a manager, I'd like to put him this way. When it's a promoter, I want to put this on because I think it'll sell. It's all theory. When it becomes practical, a lot of times in life, theory, what works in theory doesn't work in practical. Promoters have a sell that they thought were going to sell out and it bombs. Managers, things won't work out for them. And coaches and fighters, in theory, they think that they're good enough to take on that fighter and they will beat that fighter. But in practice, it doesn't work out. Things maybe that worked in sparring and in training didn't work on fight night. The other guy you watch on video, he doesn't look that good, but then when you're in with him, he's a lot more awkward, or he's better, or his timing is different to what you actually thought watching on video. And that's boxing. That's what makes this sport so good. It is unpredictable. It is unpredictable. It happens.
Dave, in David Avanesyan's case, people were mentioning they'd like to see him in there now, up and amongst kind of world level scene. Sean Porter, would that be a fight that you'd like to see him in there next?
Avanesyan and Sean Porter would be wow. That'd be just like unbelievable. That would be a great fight, a really good fight. You know what? Avanesyan, you look at him, what is he, 32? I liked listening to him in his interview afterwards. It seems I don't know him, but he seems a really nice guy. He was so thankful that Carl Greaves and his management, Neil Marsh and people like that. And, it's really nice to see Carl getting a mention and being shown gratitude, because he's another one that's been, chipping away at small shows, works with loads of fighters, promotes, managers, coaches, boxers, all these fighters that you don't see on TV all the time. And he's been chipping away. And we have Avanesyan's done a brilliant job, and he's at world level. We have Avanesyan, and it's nice that he's actually being given the credit and being spoken about. And what David spoke about him was lovely. It's good to see. I've said it in an interview before. There's enough success in boxing for everybody to have a piece. All the grafters, the people that work hard, the people that have been at it for years before they've got to the top. It's nice when not before they've got to the top, but before they get the appreciation, and the people that haven't had the appreciation for what they do. It's nice to see them get appreciated. It's nice to see them have that moment, and it's good. So it was good. I liked that. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that interview after the fight. And I would like him to get a world title shot. Eddie mentioned it. Terence Crawford's always looking for an opponent. Listen, do I think he beats Terence Crawford? No, I don't. I think Crawford's special, but something like that, a Spence, a Crawford, a Garcia. It's a very, very tough division at the top. You're talking about elite fighters. Do I think Avanesyan beats the elite fighters? I don't know. That's a conversation for another day, but I'd like him to get his crack. Do you know what I mean? I'd like him to get his crack. I think he's paid his dues and he deserves it.
Let's move on to a couple of fights from Ricardo this past weekend. Florian Marku overcoming Ryland Charlton, stopping Ryland. And one thing which I will say is a lot of praise for kind of the corner work in obviously Adam Boothford, Josh Kelly, and then Ryland Charlton's corner as well. A lot of praise towards the judging for this past weekend. But kind of getting straight from a question, Florian Marku overcoming Ryland Charlton. Just your thoughts?
I really enjoyed it. Do you know what? Marku completely surprised me because what I've seen him before, I kind of thought he was just come forward, slugger, bit of a caveman type fighter. And he showed he can box. First round, I was like, oh, hello, look at that jab. That's not bad, is it? Just doing little feints, he's moving off, and I was like, fucking hell. Shit, that's not bad. And he kept it open. Ryland Charlton just walking him down. What a tough bastard, by the way. Jesus, he's somebody again. Is somebody who's putting his record on the line. You know, these they're not experienced professionals, but they're putting their records online. Let's hopefully we're filtering out this feeling that records are the be all and end all. You know, these unbeaten records. I liked Ryland Charlton's attitude, but I loved what Marku was doing. And you know what, the chatting shit in between, it was quite entertaining. You know, just listening to chirping, you know, and even when Charlton's whacking him, he's just still chirping and thinking, you're nuts, you're absolutely nuts. But I like him, and he is definitely having to some good, you know, various good variety of punching. Some good bombs, but the jab and the boxing skills, because that's a different side to him, what I've seen. I was really impressed with that. And so I look at that, I think, well, he's going to improve as he goes on. I do wonder about the stamina side of things because of his build. You know, when they're quite very muscular and dense like that, a lot of times they tend to blow a little. But he did really, really well. And like I said, Charlton was incredibly tough, brave, and never stopped coming forward throwing bombs. And he's a very exciting fighter as well. Again, spot on with the corner, timed it great. You know, good fight. I enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it.
One of the fighters I want to touch on before we just touch on the American fights from this past weekend. Robbie Davies Jr. losing to Valenzuela. Now there was a lot going on in that fight with regards to Robbie Davies and his corner. He kind of wanted to go back to orthodox. Still seemed, from what we could hear anyway, wanted to go back to orthodox. Didn't feel comfortable at southpaw. Just firstly, your thoughts on kind of interactions between Robbie and Dom and how Robbie was boxing against Valenzuela.
When you don't know the dynamic between the two, it's very difficult. But I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying it's right. But the way that I tend to work is, I like my fighters to be comfortable with what we're doing. What works for Hope, it might not work for Jordan. So I'll adapt it, and it may be a little tweak. Might be similar sort of an idea of what shot to throw, whatever. But if because of his mechanics are different to Hope's, because Hope is very, very long range. It may be he throws the shot in a different way, or a certain combination won't work for him. Whatever it is, but my point is, when I'm teaching my fighters something to do, I explain to them why we're doing it. I want them to feel it. If they feel it and they feel that benefits them and they feel better when they're doing it, cool. Then they'll work at it harder. They'll work at it, and then because they understand it's doing some, you know, to benefit them. But then they get comfortable with it. Then they take it in sparring. They work it in sparring. Drill it in sparring, and they become comfortable. And then they'll do it on fight night. If a fighter doesn't get something or doesn't feel comfortable doing something, we adapt. We change. Okay, not a problem. I will listen to the fight. If it's him that's in there, he's got a different perspective to me. I'm sat on the ring apron or in the corner and I'm watching it. He's got a different perspective to how it is. This is why a fighter needs to think for himself. He needs to be able to think for himself. Yes, we have to advise you, and we have to help you to win the fight. But and listen, Dom's proven as a coach and everything. I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm not saying. I just thought it was different to how I would have been if I wanted him to do something, and it's not a case of I don't think it works, and he's not really giving it a go. But if he's been hurt with a shot, and then he feels the best way, I'm not explaining it wrong, but the best way of explaining it to you is some fighters can switch round. To be aggressive, they may feel better going forward as a southpaw, and they might be able to get the southpaw jab going and ping the jab. But they may also feel, because it's not the natural stance, they may feel vulnerable defensively. So if the fighter's feeling vulnerable defensively, and he's getting hit with, and he's been hurt with that certain shot already in the fight, but now he's in a position where he feels vulnerable and he feels as though he can get caught more with that shot, then he hasn't got belief in what you're asking him to do. If he hasn't got the belief in what you're asking him to do, then there's chances are that he's not going to get it right. And because he feels vulnerable in what he's doing, it's going to kind of be, he's going to offset what he's trying to do and make him more vulnerable and lower his confidence during the fight. Especially in a fight, if you're getting hurt, you need that confidence building. So I understand what Dom was trying to do, because I think the southpaw was probably to confuse. But as it went on, I felt he was getting caught with left hooks as well as right hand. But the problem is, if the fighter doesn't believe in it, if he's like literally like pleading me in the corner that it doesn't want to do that, then maybe you have to adapt to it. That's only how I'd do it. But fucking hell, I don't know his fighter. He's got that dynamic. So again, it's easy for us to say from the outside, but that's the only viewpoint we have from the outside. That's all we can do, is we can just second guess. Somebody asks you, and that's it. But that's for Robbie and Dom to discuss and to get. But I understand that sometimes with fighters, this is why I'm saying I don't know the fighter. Sometimes with fighters, they don't have that actual belief in themselves where they think they can do something, but they actually can. So if Dom's seen him and knows him as a southpaw that he can do this, and he's seen that fight and he thinks he can do it, then he's probably telling him that because he feels as though that's his best chance of winning the fight. But the problem is, it doesn't matter what I think, it doesn't matter what the coach in the corner thinks. If the fighter doesn't believe that he can do that, he shouldn't be doing it. So that's the way that I see it. I just think the fighter should we're there to advise, and if the fighter feels though it's working, you continue. If it feels though it's not working, you come back to corner and say, I feel like I'm getting hit with every right hand. Okay, right, well, it's not working. Let's do this, let's do that. Or explain, if you're going to go southpaw, you need to be pulling back at this angle, so you're making a miss to a right hand, but also you're not going to get caught by walking onto the left up. Just have a conversation. That's how I would do it. But again, Dominic Ingles trained a lot of good fighters, so he knows what he's doing. Just because it's my opinion and I think that's how I would work it, doesn't mean that I would have got a different result. So it's easy. We can all talk about things in hindsight, but that's how I would have done it different. Do you know what I mean? So it's just in my opinion.
Dave, just one fight in America I want to touch on. Oscar Valdez with a stunning knockout victory against Miguel Berchelt.
Yeah.
Just your thoughts on that?
Brilliant. Do you know what? I've not been able to see the full fight yet. I tried to watch it last night. I couldn't find the full fight. It's just where it says full fight highlights. Yeah. But it's highlights. So I want to watch the whole fight, but the ending was spectacular. That was brilliant. It really was. And I like Valdez. He's an exciting fighter. That was some shot though. Right.
Dave, we will leave that there now, and I'll leave you to enjoy the rest of your evening.
Cheers, mate.
Congratulations on a successful start to 2020.
Can I just say as well, you forgot to mention that on Friday, Samuel Antwi, who I managed, won the English title as well.
He did indeed.
So it's been a very, very good 8 days. Very, very good 8 days. Lee Wood, British champion. Hopi Price continuing with his journey, development. Samuel Antwi winning the welterweight English title, and Jordan Gill winning the WBA International Featherweight title. So I'm very, very happy right now. Thank you very much.
Jordan, Dave, it's great to hear. Obviously, you're in such good spirits. It's good to see you smiling, and hopefully that continues for the rest of this year and beyond. Appreciate your time.
Thanks,
enjoy the rest of your evening, and thank you for speaking to Boxing Social.
Cheers, guys. Thanks a lot, mate. Cheers. Nice one.